It's a DACcast. It's a DACcast. It's a DACcast. D-A-C-C-C-A-S-T. Cause I said it's a DACcast. It's a DACcast. It's a DACcast. DACcast. D-A-C-C-C-A-S-T. D-A-C-C-C-A-S-T.
You're listening to DACcast, produced by students of Danville Area Community College. And now your hosts, Kaya and Keegan.
Hey, welcome back to DACcast. I'm Erin Anderson.
And I'm Landon Frazier. Our mission with DACcast is to create a platform that was made for students and created by students. We want you all to become more familiar with the faces you see every day here at DAC.
With that being said, we are so excited to bring you today's episode.
We are here today with the Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Carl Bridges. We are so excited to have you on the show today and give people an opportunity to learn more about you.
No, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
We're very happy that you're here. Would you mind telling us a little bit about kind of yourself and what you do here at DAC?
Sure. I'm an Illinois boy, born and bred. Undergrad, master's, and doctoral programs all here in Illinois. In fact, I'm a U of I grad many years ago. I am excited to be here. I've had roles as Vice President of Academic Affairs and also in Student Affairs. So there's some common stuff that I know is going to happen here, but you know, every institution brings new opportunities, new challenges, and so I'm excited to be here. My role is responsible for all of academics. Work very closely with the deans and the lead instructors to look at the programs, what we're offering, connect with the community to make sure that we're offering programs that serve the community, and partner with the community to make sure that we are servicing the community the way we should as an institution that is housed in this wonderful Danville area. So it's very exciting, and I'm excited to be here.
What's a normal day look like for you?
A lot of meetings. You know, early on, you have a huge learning curve. So I'm right now navigating that curve by, meeting with all kinds of folks internally and externally to pretty much understand the inner workings. I want to make sure that I understand DAC before I start to really think about what we need to do to move forward to meet the needs of the future. And so a lot of meeting with individuals to talk about the relationships that we had previously and how to continue those and make them grow. And so I'm hoping at some point it'll be less meetings and more work, so to speak, doing things to create those new opportunities for the students and the faculty and the staff.
You mentioned that you have a pretty long list of degrees, and we did do a little bit of research, so we have all of them listed here. But Can you tell us a little bit about your academic career and then how you kind of transitioned from all of those jobs to make it here to DAC?
Yeah. I've had a very strange career trajectory. I started out as, after I earned my doctorate degree at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, I actually cheated a little bit, and by cheated, what I mean is, well, probably should have said that a different way. But what happened was I had finished my doctoral coursework and was starting my dissertation, had the opportunity to accept a position at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, which is where my education career started, but I hadn't finished my dissertation yet. So the first year of my job, I was teaching lots of courses, but also working on my doctoral dissertation at the same time. So it was a lot of work, but survived that, earned tenure at Ohio University, and then was there for 5 years, and a new dean was hired for the College of Business where I worked. And he pulled me aside and said that I have such a great relationship with the students and the faculty that he wanted to create a new role in the college. And it was the Dean of Student Services for the College of Business. And he wanted me to have that role, and it was my first taste of administrative work, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So But around the same time, my father became ill, and I needed to get back to Chicago. And I couldn't find a job in academics. I had just gotten tenure, but a lot of institutions weren't hiring. So I ended up working for Anderson Consulting Education, doing training work there, which I liked, but it wasn't education, which was my real passion. So that started my career in for-profit education. It's been a lot of years working in for-profit education for different institutions. But the turning point was working at Hocking College in Nelsonville, Ohio, which is another 2-year institution. And I found my passion there. I love the student population. I love working with that student because there's just a difference there. And so ever since that moment, this has been, landing here at DAC has been a dream come true because this is the student population I really enjoy working with. But it was a strange journey to get here, but I finally got here.
So we understand that you've had lots of jobs like you were just mentioning, but have you always, like right out of college, you always wanted to work in academics, or did you ever think about doing something else? Or
when I was at U of I as an undergrad, I think I changed my major 8 times. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an accountant. I went through probably about a month where I wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor. But there was an underlying love of education. It's a little strange story, but when I was a kid, my parents bought me a chalkboard. It was one of those chalkboards that was on wheels and was flippable. And I was 7 or 8 years old, and I just loved that chalkboard. My father would complain all the time that he had to buy chalk every week. But one of the things I did as a child is when I would go to school, I'd come back home and I would teach what I learned at school to all my toy soldiers and stuffed animals and my sister's toys, line them up as if they were students, and I'd teach. And that board, I always laugh because it broke and my dad would fix it. And then at one point he jury-rigged it so it was on a shopping cart that we stole from Jules. And then that didn't work anymore, and so he ended up mounting it on the wall in our back porch. So, and at the time, they were just being good parents, but they were laying the foundation for me to really love teaching. And so fast forward to being at U of I, the way I studied was to go into an empty classroom and write my notes on the wall, on the chalkboard, and just picture it together. And I was doing that one day, and my stats professor walked by the room and saw me in the room, and he came in and he talked to me and he said, "Have you ever thought about education and teaching?" At that time, that was the only thing I hadn't thought about as an option. But he put the spark in my head, and then from there, I just started to work toward it. I knew I wanted to get a master's. I knew I wanted to get an MBA, and once I did that, I worked for a little while because I felt like I needed to have some work experience. And then the doctoral program, and then the journey started. So I always say my mom and dad were really the ones that laid the foundation for me to be a teacher. It just took me a long time to figure out what that foundation was and to really tap into it.
How many years did you actually all combined go to, how long were you in school? You said you took a little break before your doctorates?
Mm-hmm. So undergrad was 4 years and a term. MBA was 2 years, and my doctorate was 5 years. 5 years,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of school.
A lot of school. When you were talking about the chalkboard, I had a whiteboard actually when I was little. My mom's an educator, so I always used to write with dry erase markers on the little whiteboard. So I was just picturing little me doing that while you were talking about that. So that's awesome. From all of the times that you were in college and through all of your degrees, do you have some favorite college memories from any of your degrees?
Oh, wow.
Hard question. Very hard question.
That's a good question. I think my favorite moment is the graduation moment when I earned my doctorate. Because I was a little bit of a rebel. I did not go through the undergraduate graduation ceremony. It was just going to be too many people, and I was too cool for school. Nah, I'm not going. And then for the MBA program, that was it was a difficult time for my family. There were some health issues going on, so they couldn't come. So the doctoral program was the first time that I had my dad was there watching me, and the doctoral graduation is really cool because you get hooded and they read your name for the first time as Dr. Carl Bridges, and they read the name of your dissertation study. So it was very cool, and I could see my dad and my sister actually watching, and that was a really cool moment because he suffered through me in that dissertation process of coming home and being frustrated and angry. So to have him there meant a lot.
Well, yeah, and roughly 10 years of school, you worked really hard for that.
Exactly.
So having that big celebratory moment was great. So we're going to take a transition into like more of your personal life and get to know a little bit more about you. So tell us about where you're from, where you grew up, and what the best part about where you grew up was.
I'm a Chicago boy, born and raised. And so I'm a city boy. So this is, although I'm enjoying my time here in Danville, and I've worked and lived in small towns before. So, my parents always taught me that wherever you are, you're supposed to be. So act like it and make it your home. And so, but being in Chicago, I'm a big sports fan. So having the Bulls, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, and the Sox. And some of my favorite memories are, especially in those days where both the Cubs and the Sox are playing, and the train line, which is the red line, runs in between those two parks. And so we could go to a Cubs game in the afternoon, hop on the train, and go to a night game for the White Sox. Those were a lot of fun, a lot of beer. But a lot of fun.
Great family memories, I'm sure.
I love the city as well. I think want to end up somewhere like Chicago, maybe even Chicago.
Yeah, Landon's a city boy too.
Yeah.
Me, not so much. I'm a country girl, but Landon
rides
is a city
tractors
boy.
for a living, and I'm.
What are some of the things that you like to do in your free time?
I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like to read a lot. And I usually have 2 or 3 books that I'm reading, something a little bit serious and something, I like biographies and autobiographies. I've been really starting to get into, this is really shameful. I always am embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've starting to get into the binge watching of shows because I'm one of those nerds that I'm always late to the party. So when everyone's saying, "Oh my God, this show is amazing," I'm like, okay. And then 2 or 3 years later, I start looking at it and okay. I don't even remember the name of the show. The Meth Lab. That's probably not a good reference, but what's the Meth Lab show? I can't
don't
think
know.
of the
It's like
name
right
of
on the top of my head, but I
can't
can't
think
think
of the
about
name of
What
it.
you're talking about.
The school teacher and everybody was in love with that show, and that was just, again, it was another one of my too cool for school moments, like, whatever. And so now I'm binge watching that, and so I end up doing that a lot. But I like to cook. Although I'm by myself here, so I don't cook because I don't know how to cook for small amounts. I have to have at least like 8 people to really cook the way I like to. But I spend a lot of time getting to know where I am. driving around and exploring. I'm not going to be hiking and doing any of that stuff. But if I'm in the car and I'm driving around checking things out or going to museums, that type of thing, I really like doing those types of things.
What led you back here to DAC? Or not back here, you never came from here, but what led you to Danville, Illinois?
First of all, the position, it was an opportunity to work with an institution that I believe understands what students need to be successful. And that's part of the reason why I like working with community colleges, is because the community college understands what needs to happen in order to help students to be successful. The support services that are provided, like TRIO and counseling services and mentoring and, all of those things sometimes get lost in the shuffle with larger institutions. But here it is in the forefront. And so when you have that type of environment that understands that means a lot to me, because that's how I survived my experiences at U of I, were all of these support systems that were set up to really help me. I wasn't a very good student in high school, and I was never, initially, not a very good writer. So to have the opportunity to be at the University of Illinois, but also have a coach to help me to improve my writing skills, just, was a cornerstone of my success. And so to be able to work at an institution that believes in that and supports that, that's important to me. I said this to someone else, it's weird. Many, many years ago, I came here to this area to go to college and to change my life. And so now I've come here to be here at DAC to help to change other people's lives. And so there's something very parallel about that. And so that makes me know that I'm here for a reason.
There's definitely camaraderie with DAC here, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. What is the best part about your current position here at DAC?
It's the best of both worlds. It's the best of all worlds. It's working with faculty, it's working with students, and I know I'm new, so one of the things I want to do over the next few months is to give students the opportunity to get to know me. That's why, again, I'm very excited to be here, to allow students the opportunity to get to know who I am beyond just this person that I may go to if I'm in trouble. It's working with staff. It's working with the community. So it gives me the opportunity to be very creative. I like to try and do innovative things. I like to take risks. Because I think those are the things that build opportunities for your institution. And so for me, that's something, again, to go back to what you had asked earlier, that's one of the things that draws me here, is that there is this openness to try new things, to do new things. And when you have that, that gets my creative juices going. And so, so it makes things exciting, yeah.
Did you have a person who played a role in your life, on what you do today? I know you talked about your parents and your dad, but did you have anyone in your academic career?
When I went to University of Illinois, I had a wonderful mentor when I was a freshman. When I was a freshman, I lived in Forbes Hall, which is now gone. Anyway, but I lived in Forbes Hall, and our resident director was Don Bell. And Don Bell was just this amazing mentor who was encouraging to me. And so we have stayed connected. In fact, Don now lives in Chicago, and every once in a while I get the opportunity to see him and spend time with him. And it was very funny when I told him I was coming here. He was so excited, and that's just who he's always been. And so that's always been very encouraging to me. My older brother, David, my brother, David, is also a big inspiration for me. He was, he was always a smart guy. Growing, he, was in engineering, and he's just so. I looked up to him so much, but he never made me feel, that I was less. He always encouraged me, and always made me feel important, and so that's always encouraged me. And I really feel lucky. I've had a lot of great leaders, bosses, colleagues who have all been encouraging me to be that creative, wacky, hardworking, fun person that I try to be every day.
That's wonderful. The best part about this podcast especially is that we get to learn more about you, which you said, which is awesome. How do you go about getting students, or you're trying to go about getting students involved and interested in getting an education here at DAC?
I think the relationship that we have with the community is just so critical. And I know that individuals who are in roles like mine need to really be out in the community and talking to, community leaders and trying to make links with high schools. I think because of everything that's happened with COVID, I think that community colleges have gotten a second chance because a lot of students are now looking at community colleges as a viable option. I joke about this, but seriously, I had a conversation when COVID hit with my great nephew. He was about to go to school at Michigan State. And I said, lost your mind. You're going to Michigan State and spend all this money to sit in a dorm room and take online classes.
Yeah.
Stay home, take classes at the community college, save some money, and I think a lot of students have done that. And because of that, they've seen the real value that a DAC, for example, can have for their, for them as an education. And so we have to ride the tail of that and go out and really promote that and push that into the high schools and into, parent organizations and all the organizations to say, we're a viable opportunity, we're a viable option for your student, and don't overlook us, Make sure that you look inside our community first to see the opportunities that are there. And we're a great opportunity for our students.
Following up with that, out of all of the jobs that you've had, which do you believe has been the most impactful in students' lives, your life?
Oh, wow.
Another hard question.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like this is turning into an Oprah interview.
We don't have a car for you.
I would have to say, wow, that is a really tough question. And the reason why it's tough is because one of the things that I take pride in is the fact that I am a person of difference. And no matter where I go, I'm always going to be that person of difference. And so when other people see that person of difference, like I did when I saw another African-American male in a position of power or a position of authority, it was always encouraging to me. And so I know that I have to wear that, and that's okay. In a lot of ways, I want to wear that to show people that this guy can do it, so I can do it. As I said, my high school experience was not the best, and I didn't have the best grades, but I still got an undergrad, a master's, and a doctorate. So to know that you can overcome that obstacle. So I always carry that with me wherever I go, and I try to make sure that I display that to students. So that's why that question is hard, but I'm still thinking about it. I think I'd have to say Hocking College, and only because it was my first real experience with working with community college. And as I said earlier, that's when the light bulb went off for me to say, this is the type of institution I want to work for.
What are some of your long and short-term goals that you have for your field here at DAC?
Short term is to reduce that learning curve. I got a lot to learn. We have a lot of programs and a lot of faculty and staff, and so I want to make sure that I really take the time to learn and understand where we've come from, and I think that helps to determine where we want to go. I think from a long-term standpoint, it really is about an educated guess of what the future is going to be and figuring out how we can fit into it. Like I said earlier with COVID, that took everyone into a very sharp turn, into a different direction. The importance and the leveraging of technology. The reality that companies, organizations realize that they can have employees working from home and still be successful. But then on the other side of the coin, you have those fields where that'll never happen. I really, really don't want someone cutting my hair who learned how to do it online.
Definitely.
So there's got to be some, opportunity for them to practice that skill in a real space. And so, but for me, the long term is really about technology and leveraging it in the classroom, but also leveraging it in a way to make sure that our students are prepared to be out in whatever field they're in to use it successfully. And I think I don't think the classroom is ever going to go away, but I think as educators we have to be comfortable with virtual classrooms and online classes, because I think we're going to see more of that moving forward.
Did you plan to be where you are today, or did you kind of just figure it out along the way? Because I think it's really important because you don't always have to have a plan. You can just, it's important for a plan, but figuring out along the way is what a lot of people are doing right now. And
I think my suggestion is always you have a plan, but it's a living plan. And what I mean by that is that when other opportunities come and it's not a part of your plan, you don't automatically dismiss it. You have to think, is this a viable option for me? Is this something that I should consider? I think sometimes people use plans as tunnel vision, and then they miss opportunities along the way. So I think I had a plan. It wasn't the best, but I had a plan. But for example, when Dr. Smith came into Dr. Smithson came into that classroom and said, "Did you ever think about teaching?" I hadn't. So it was an opportunity for me to rethink my plan. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think it's having the flexibility to be open, open to new opportunities, I think is really important.
Because I know even myself right now, I'm still struggling with finding a set plan of what I want to do. Like I have an idea, but it's not set in stone.
I'm struggling right now with my plan. Exactly. Truly, you're just starting in a new position, wanting to do the right things, but also wanting to make sure that you acknowledge the things that were done in the past. So, yeah, that struggle is real, and it's okay. It's okay. It's a part of that. It's a part of our journey, I believe, as a lifelong learner. Anyone that says they've never had that struggle, I give them a side eye. Because, come on, you've never had that struggle, yeah, whatever. I think it's a reality of what we do. Yeah.
Even as somebody that claims that they knew what they were supposed to do, like I was, but now I'm questioning it as I'm getting to the point where I am going to transfer and making those big decisions in life too.
I know this is kind of a different question than what we asked you before, but do you have any personal goals? It could be for your personal life, your career.
I've thought about the idea of someday being a president, but it looks like a lot of work, so I'm not sure. I think about what I want to make sure I'm doing in my career is, number one, having fun and feeling fulfilled, both, fulfilling my spirit and fulfilling my soul, that I'm doing something that I believe is meaningful. And so kind of going back to the plan thing, that's always been part of who I am, so that's important for me. But personally, there are some experiences that I haven't had in my career that I am longing to. For example, I have never really written a grant. I probably shouldn't say that out loud too, because now everyone's going to be hunting me down to do this. But I've never really written a grant. I've managed several, but I've never really written one on my own. And so it's one of the things I want to try and do here is to work through that process. So that's important for me. But I consider myself to be, because I'm a big nerd, I'm always looking for opportunities to learn new things. I have a lot of programs here that I know a little bit about, but I don't know a lot about. And so a lot of times what I love to do is just to walk around and talk to faculty or sit in classrooms and listen to lectures on topic areas that I don't know very much about. Because to me, it's fun to do. Yeah, I know, big nerd.
You don't teach any classes here, do you?
I have not yet.
Would you like to?
I think I would love to do that. I really would.
What would you focus on? Like, what would you teach?
My background's in business, so I've taught leadership, management, organizational behavior, business writing. So probably that would probably be the area that would make most sense. But I've also, one of the things that I'm interested in, and I've always enjoyed doing, was the college, which I think we call it here, Success in College course. Which is an opportunity to see students right off the bat and lay the groundwork for them to move forward. So I've taught that in several institutions as well.
I just got done taking that, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm going like completely off the rails, but I want to go back and I want to. Okay, so you said you like to read and you like to cook. So what's your favorite kinds of food and what's your favorite kind of books?
That's
The Thanksgiving meal is my favorite thing to cook.
We have that on our
It's
list
like
too,
a thing.
actually.
You'll hear it
it's
later,
the
don't
game
worry.
at the end of the show.
Oh, okay. Actually, I like to bake a little bit more than I like to cook, but the Thanksgiving meal is always fun for me. But my favorite thing to bake, are desserts. Which is a real problem again, because if I'm by myself and I'm making a big old peach cobbler, that's probably not a good idea. But yeah, peach cobbler is probably my favorite thing to make, and it's probably the thing my family demands from me more than anything else. And I also make an orange creamsicle cake that everybody loves.
That would be really good.
You'd be really hungry at
I'm
this
kind of
time
a little
day.
offended you didn't bring us your dessert. So
Oh, goodness.
And you asked me about a book. My favorite book, and I've read this book about 5 times. It's called The Color of Water, and it is this beautiful story about this African American male who was adopted by a white family, and the title comes from the young man asking his parents, his adopted parents, well, what color am I? And they said, they would always say to him, you're the color of water. It's a really beautiful story. So I read that, again, because it inspires me. The story is so powerful. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites.
Sounds like a good book.
So, yeah.
Dak Attack. I think it's time for our little game.
We play this little game at the end of every interview, and it's like we ask this or that questions, and you have to answer as fast as you can. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
It's just
I
little
think
silly questions so we can get to know more about you.
I think
Okay.
we know the answer to the first one already, but we're gonna ask it anyway.
Okay.
Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Thanksgiving. That one's easy.
Bacon or eggs?
Bacon.
Podcast or music?
Music.
Ice cream or snow cone?
Oh, ice cream.
Big party or small party?
Small party.
Hamburger or taco?
Oh. Oh. Both. No. Ooh. Dang. What does the taco have on it? No, I'm just kidding.
Anything you want.
I'll have to say hamburger. I'll say hamburger.
Okay. Candy or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Phone or computer?
Computer.
Horror film or comedy film?
Comedy. I hate horror films. Oh, nightmares. No.
Board games or card games?
Card games.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
talking
thank
with
you.
us today.
I
I really
appreciate
enjoyed
it.
this
Yeah.
interview a lot.
Thank you
I'm
so
glad
much.
we could allow people to, learn more about you. And
Yes.
I think people really enjoy it. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for being here. This has been DACcast.
With Aaron and Landon.
Stay classy, Jaguars.